So there are just a couple of imperfections in the car. I wanted to go and point those out. I'm going to point a couple of them to you in the garage because the garage lights make it a little easier to see. And then when we pull the car outside, I'll go ahead and point those out to you as well. So I'm actually not going to go ahead and point those out to you because I felt like I got them in the garage pretty well. Pieces. The front flare pieces don't fit perfectly, but they're pretty darn good. I use nutserts on everything, so they're easy to remove. Just simple Allen key screws. The flares come off real easy. The car is dirty, by the way, so my apologies. The lip fits pretty good. There's a small gap around the edge, not too crazy. You really can't tell until you're a couple feet from the car. The carbon lip does match the fog covers pretty well. You can see the Mokel 21-row oil cooler. The thermostatic plate is under there as well. And I don't know if I can really get a good shot of it, but there's the lines. And then there is the Tomei equal length header as well. So it doesn't look like a lot of clearance, but there's actually a good amount of clearance to those lines, so never had a problem catching them on anything. They sit higher than the lip. JDM grille, never need to be repainted, and there are your retrofitted headlights, clear corners, clear bumper lights as well, and also clear side markers as I move over here. As far as the imperfections go, one of them, just kind of actually almost hard to see, is right about there. You can see just a tiny little bump in the hood. I don't even know if my camera can focus on it. Let's see if I can get my finger. Nope, not even going to focus, so that's really quite hard to point out, to be honest. Little one right there. There you go, now you can see it. There is another one, another little one right here. Again, kind of hard to see, but there you go, just a little tiny piece. And then just little tiny scratches and so forth, like right there. You can see it now, right there. Move around the side of the car. You can see the side skirt, still a matte black, little scratched up where kind of a driver's foot would hit it on the way in and out of the car. And then the one thing is I noted a dent in the door, and you can see it pretty much right in that area right there, and the little one underneath the rub strip on the back panel. I got a quote for a few $100 to remove every dent in the entire car, so those are kind of the bulk of them. And that's pretty much it on that. You know, the window stripping and so forth is still that of a 99. So you can see kind of just a few of like the little imperfections going around. But it doesn't leak in any way, shape, or form. The window tint on the back is actually in really great shape. And that's it for the little bumps and scratches. I'll show you the few other pieces on the replica spoiler in just a minute here. Okay, so standing at the back of the car here, and I just wanted to point out a couple more imperfections just because I think it's really important to note everything so whoever ends up buying the car knows exactly what they're getting, because it is not a perfect car. It was designed as a track and weekend car. It wouldn't take much to make it a show car. In fact, it took a first place trophy at a local Subaru show a couple years back, but just want to point those out. So with that said, clearly the car doesn't move much because that right there is a spider swinging around. So if we start on the front of the spoiler, again, it's a replica spoiler, it's fiberglass. It is not perfect by any means. And there is a small little crack right there. Now I think you can see it's right here. It goes out like that. There is a crack right here. Shows a little bit of primer through it. And then also one where the spider's at. On the back of the spoiler. It runs just a little bit to here, and then it pretty much runs down the side. The paint on the bottom underneath the light, not the best. Kind of hard to tell until you get really close to it. You can see just a little bit of a kind of under spray on it, almost like they didn't paint it enough. And then there is a crack on this part of the wing right here, and you can see that pretty much runs down the wing, and then also down to the bottom of the wing. That's pretty much it. The JDM tail lights sit pretty well. The bumper cutouts look pretty decent. I can show you underneath the car here the exhaust as well, just so you kind of get an idea. Probably could use a polish, but I actually do polish it about once a year. And it goes all the way back. There's the rear diff. And you can see the lateral links, the sway bar, end links. And you kind of get an idea of the rear suspension and what's been done to it. And now we'll do
now we're gonna jump inside the car. It's a little hard to show you the back seat because the seats are so tight in the car, and then the roll bar. But I'll jump in, I'll kind of show you around a little bit, and then I'll do a cold start. So inside the car here, you've got the Sabel wheel, Works, Bell steering wheel, Innovate, AFR gauge. You've got the JDM cluster. It does have the DC-CD part. Just to be aware, the 6-speed in this car is not wired for DC-CD yet. I never did buy a DC-CD Pro controller. Defi gauges set up in an RPG carbon pod. Underneath here you've got a Cobb short shifter, all new bushings. All the controls in the car work, heater and AC. Heat blows hot, AC blows cold, emergency flashers, and all the turn signals, everything. You can see the control switches for the Defi gauges back there. And then the control module for the Defi gauges is down here on the passenger side footwell right there. I was saying all the switches in this car do work with one exception. The door lock switch on the driver's side, it will not unlock. It will lock, but it will not unlock. Other than that, everything works, including the sunroof. You've got a Takata harness, Recaro driver and passenger seat. Recaro driver seat slides back and forth. The Recaro passenger seat is in place. It is on, they're both on Planted Tech sliders and Recaro sliders, Planted Tech brackets, but the width of the Recaro SRD in the passenger seat over there, it just doesn't allow it to slide due to the center console. Back seat, kind of hard to show you back here. I do have the factory seats still, so you can put those back in if you want to pull the roll bar, make it a little more daily friendly. But with that said, not much to see back there. It's pretty much just exposed. And roll bar sits right at the top, pretty much right where you'd want it. There you go. Seatbelts are all functional. And Takata harness is mounted to the rear roll bar as well as to the floor, as it should be. Let's do a cold start. Okay, so let's do a cold start. I think that's one of the most important things, especially with a modified car. People will warm the car up, and then you end up buying something that works great when it's been warmed up, but they kind of dealt with that before you got there. So as you turn the keys on, let me back this up. I want to show you the Defi gauges. They do their normal dance. There you go. Okay. It is still on MAF, so not in any way, shape, or form tuned to remove any of the check engine lights. Do a start. There you go. Fires right up. That warning light is the e-brake, so if I take that off, you see 0 check engine lights. Defi gauges. Couple more of the imperfections just to point those out. We used a T-fitting for the oil pressure and oil temperature gauge. So oil pressure reads perfect, as does the boost gauge. Get the Cobb access port out and plug that in to show you. But the oil temperature gauge here does not actually read accurately at this point. That sender needs to be plugged into the block as it should be, and because we used a T-sender, it just doesn't read the proper temperature. But all other gauges read appropriately, and as you can see, obviously this was tuned off of an O2 WRX motor, so everything works flawlessly on the access port as it should. And that is about all I've got to show you. Let's get the car started back up here one more time. Close that up. It's gonna be a little hard to hear, but the stereo does work. It is only the rear speakers. The front speakers don't currently work. I believe we disconnected some wiring a while back when cleaning up some of the bad wiring the previous owner did. And then, so we'll turn that off. And I just wanted to show you the HVAC works as well. There you go. Both work. Rear defroster works. Emergency flashers. Works as appropriate. AC is already blowing cold, and heat already starting to warm up, so everything works perfectly. That's one of the nice parts about this car. I wanted it to still be something you could drive to the track, but then drive home on a cold or hot day and still be comfortable. Car
I didn't show you the sunroof works, but it works as do the windows and all the lighting. It's mostly LED lighting inside and out, except for some stuff that I kind of wanted to keep more little OEM and not so flashy. And with that said, the trunk does have an old amp and some stereo wiring in it that I don't like, but I've not yet taken out. That'll just go with the car. So real quick here, let's open that up. So here's the trunk. There's no carpeting in there right now. I actually tossed the carpeting. It was really gross. The amp and wiring, again, it's a mess. I recognize that. The previous owner had a really huge stereo subwoofer back here, which I hated. Didn't want the weight, so I took it out and gave it to a friend. Most of the weather stripping is good. There's a little tear right there, but it doesn't leak. In fact, nothing leaks on the car. It's completely sound, even if you take a hose and spray right at it. No sound deadening or anything on the top of the trunk. Just open. That's where we ran the wiring for the new spoiler, because originally it had the 2.5 RS USDM spoiler on it, and I hated that spoiler, so we put that replica one on there. On the back of the trunk here, you've got old school WRX badge, which is kind of cool. And then just be aware that as you lower the trunk, the springs in there are set up for the old 2.5 RS spoiler, so you have to lower it down slowly. And that's just because of the fact that we don't want, we didn't get a chance to swap those out. So they're designed for a lighter weight spoiler. And that's pretty much it. You can even see the glass on these, albeit dirty, is still in great shape. Clear, still get a great reflection out of there. A couple water spots, nothing major. And the scoops were painted at the same time as the rear spoiler, so both scoops were painted at the same time, and they're in great shape as well. The color is a little too metal flaky in the sunlight, but other than broad daylight, it looks almost perfect. And that's about it for the car. Tread depth on the tires is equal all the way around, and you can see, I don't even know if I can find a tread marker. It's right there. There you go. You can get a good idea that there's an ample amount of tread depth left on the tires. Tires probably only have about 3,000 miles on them. Okay, so I wanted to do a couple shots of the engine bay here, just so you can kind of get an idea of what's going on. It is a built EJ205, JE pistons, Manley H-beam rods, ACL bearings, ARP head studs, 16 GXTR, 10 centimeter hot side, you can kind of see back there. There you go. It has a Koyo radiator with Spall Slim fans. Can't really see the Koyo stamp on there anymore because it's covered. It's got a Rallytech radiator shroud. Let's see, cob intake with a custom cut airbox, elbow, parent inlet, Greddy catch can hiding back in there. You can see the Grim Speed boost controller, and I think I can get it down there, and the NVIDIA downpipe. Other than that, some of the strange things you might notice, there is indeed a line running to the windshield washer reservoir. That's now for coolant overflow. The only reason why I did that is because the windshield wiper washers didn't work, and that was an easy fix rather than trying to find a place in an otherwise very cramped and tight engine bay to run that. So that's pretty much the engine. Things you can't see as well: parent pulley, 1000cc cob injectors for E85. You can see the Optima battery, the ballasts for the retrofitted headlights, this control module. One other thing I wanted to point out, the rear flares do stick out quite a bit. If you look down the side of the car, you can see they stick out pretty far there. And so with that said, they do have some paint imperfections on them from rock chips and so forth. Again, track days, weekend driving, a little bit of daily driving years ago, but nothing crazy. And I also have one small nick in this wheel. You can actually see it. It's right there. About the size of a tip of a pencil. And as we move around, this wheel is actually pretty much in perfect condition.
This wheel also pretty close to perfect condition. You can see kind of almost like some water spots on them. Those have been there since I bought them. They really don't show except in certain types of lighting. And then really like the worst spot on any of the wheels is this back passenger side wheel, and that's going to be right there. And it's about probably 3 inches long, and it's a really light scuff. I almost feel like if you were to paint over it, you'd never know. There's a little one right there. Okay, so one last thing I wanted to point out, which is really important for this car, is that a lot of people don't understand when you live in California how hard it is to do things right and get a bar and ref sticker for your car. It means you can take it down and legally get it smogged. It means the engine in the car will pass inspection for the state. So, not saying the car will pass in its current state. What I'm saying is that with a few small parts swapped out, you can get it to pass. And the sticker is legal, and I'm going to show it to you right now. So as we come in here, that is the sticker right there, and you can see it was 2007 when it was originally passed, so before I bought the car, and there you have it. Okay, so that's pretty much the car. I think I pointed out all the imperfections. That was the point of that video, but also to show that it runs great, that it's pretty tidy. And if you have any questions at all, just please let me know. I know the video is a little choppy. I'm not much for making videos, but I wanted to really show how much work and effort was put into the car, and how all these things I'm pointing out, I mean, they are minute compared to a lot of these cars out there. The car is rust free. Everything runs perfectly. The transmission is in great shape. Engine's in great shape, healthy, never had a problem. And it's been a great car for me. It is time to move on. So ask questions, let me know what I can do for you, and let's see if we can't make a deal.